guys see this? Today, X went down multiple times. And Elon Musk later blamed the outage on a massive cyber attack. Yeah. It was rough. All day long, users had to get their misinformation from Facebook. It's great. Rough day today.
Yes, naturally brings to mind Hillary Clinton saying people should go to prison for spreading misinformation and disinformation, as she was actively spreading misinformation and disinformation because she's Hillary Diane Rodham Clinton. Is it hump day yet? No, it's not hump day. Tomorrow's hump day, though. Bill Clinton rolling his fingers on the desktop until hump day arrives. When will Hillary get out of my big mansion? Get out! Love is a funny thing, a fickle thing. Especially when you're, a Clinton. An Alinskyite, a leftist. Well, very good Tuesday to you and welcome back. We remain, for the time being at least, at 888-630-9625. And as the world turns, the madness continues. And the Democrats, you see, it's the Elon Musk. I assume that the entire crowd there at Jimmy Fallon went out and burned a Tesla dealership after their little show taped. And they've got to sack and loot and burn and plunder, as the left is so fond of doing, aren't they? Yes, they are. They're not well. Not only are they not on our side, they're very unwell. They've got a lot of issues, this Democrat Party. If you're a Democrat, you're welcome to call in and explain yourself to me because I'm all ears. I'm more open-minded than anyone you've ever met, as it turns out. Remarkable stuff. Speaking of the Jew-hating, genocidal lunatics, you see the jihadi at Columbia University. He's not even a Palestinian. He's a Syrian. You see that? He's a Syrian, this Khalil fella, Mahmoud Khalil. And he's not a Palestinian. He's a Syrian. Oh, you see, in Syria, because the United States went in and meddled with the Assad regime, now they're massacring the Christians because basically ISIS took over. ISIS, Al-Qaeda, ISIS. Let's call the whole thing off. And they're massacring the Christians now. And the news media really doesn't care because, they'd massacre the Christians here, given half a chance. They're not on our side. And the Jews, they go after the Jews. At Columbia University, they love, you see the professor today, they got a professor at Columbia. He's having a hate the Jews day off, having a day off because Columbia University, you know how these lefties are, very, very unwell. Columbia University professors, plural, cancel classes in solidarity. They love that word solidarity. They think it's communistic to say they're in solidarity because of Lech Walesa and the Soviet days in Poland. But Columbia professors cancel classes in solidarity. I think I still have a solidarity T-shirt at home somewhere, probably shrink-wrapped in one of those things under the bed with lots of T-shirts from years ago. Soviet-era solidarity, Lech Walesa. I met Lech Walesa once at the National Cathedral in Washington at the funeral for Ronald Wilson Reagan. It was kind of fun, but that's another story for another day. The Democrats, they hate the Jews. Even their Jews hate the Jews. How did the Democrats, the left, that is to say, turn the Jews against the Jews? It's crazy. It's like, hey, bring your violins. We're filling the boxcars. Come join us. We'll get the Jews sooner or later. Amazing stuff, the Democrat Party. So and Rashida Tlaib, she's really a piece of work, isn't she? She's trying to keep it clean, so I call her a piece of work. The Democrats and their genocidal racism, which has been well established over the years, over the centuries, in fact, for as long as the Democratic Party, as we know it today, has been around, a horribly racist organization. And now they've set their sights on, well, they had white people and Asians can't get into Ivy League schools because, the Democrats want their idiot kids to get into the Ivy League schools. So you can't let the Asians in. Otherwise, be no room for their idiots, for their brain-damaged little gender dysphoric nitwits, their children. And so the Mahmoud Khalid, he was grabbed by Immigration Customs Enforcement, and he's being deported after they strip his visa. And the Democrats are yelling. They want to have some kind of, as usual, burning things. They want to have some idiot discussion about whether he's here on a student visa or on a green card. And I couldn't possibly care less. He's married to an American woman. Can we deport her too? Because that'd be we should send her to Syria. Is she a Christian? Because I think she'd learn a little something about the culture that she's married into. That could be helpful for her. Very instructive, I think. But remarkable stuff. And they've got these crazy people. They're called Democrats that are entirely backing the jihadi Khalil, who is not on the side of civilization at all. But that's not important now. The Columbia University professors, Barack Obama went to school there, didn't he? That's in Manhattan, New York, isn't it? That's where the left lives, I believe. And, and Adolf Hitler's party was called the Socialist Workers' Party of Germany. That's something to keep in mind. They've kind of airbrushed that out of history with their information dominance and the way they abuse their information dominance. But the Washington Free Beacon, great organization, great news. Unlike the Washington Post, for example, we have great papers in Washington, D.C. We have the Washington Times, the wonderful, great Washington Times. We have the Washington Free Beacon. We have the Washington Examiner. We're very lucky. And then we've got that heap called the Washington Post. But that's another thing altogether. And then who was the idiot that Ruth Marcus resigned from the Washington Post yesterday because she learned that their centibillionaire boss, Jeff Bezos, was pro-capitalism, pro-free markets, and pro-individual liberties for the first time that he ever said that out loud. And the Democrats are resigning in a huff because, what do you mean? You're pro-capitalism? Their centibillionaire boss. But back to the Jew-hating people. The Democrats. The headline of the Washington Free Beacon today. Columbia, meaning Columbia University, Columbia professors, plural, cancel classes in solidarity with pro-Hamas activists in ICE custody. They would defund ICE and fund Hamas. In fact, Joe Biden has been funding Hamas and funding the Ayatollahs in Iran for years and years, billions and billions. What Joe Biden gave the Ayatollah $6 billion American dollars in exchange for 5 hostages, which is, the word incentivize? The word incentivize. That creates an incentive for the jihadis to take more Americans hostage because it's so beneficial to take Americans hostage, $1.2 billion per hostage. That's pretty good. The Symbionese Liberation Army, another Democrat Party group, kidnapped Patty Hearst and all that, rob banks, all that good stuff, machine guns, berets. They love berets, don't they? And all that stuff. But back to Columbia University, the professors, they canceled classes in solidarity with pro-Hamas activists in ICE custody. One professor gave students an automatic A for their canceled midterms because it's about hating. It's about hating everybody. They love the hate. One thing they love is hate. Quite amazing stuff. Yeah, and Columbia professors, they've got them in there. They're just left-wing radical extremists and jihadis too. They got, Albernaz, Joseph Albernaz. He's jihadi, and then they got this Ruharid McLeod. What do you got in McLeod? You got a jihadi named McLeod. That's pretty amazing stuff. And of course, Mahmoud. They're very upset about Mahmoud Khalil, who is a jihadi and a genocidal Jew hater, and the Democrats applaud that. They love that. You got to love the hate. In order to love the hate, you have to hate the love. So Columbia University professors canceled in-person classes on Monday in support of Mahmoud Khalil, the student activist. He's a student activist and foreign national whom the Trump administration moved to deport over his pro-Hamas campus organizing. Hamas is defined by the U.S. government as a terrorist organization. What with all the kidnappings and the rapes and murders and hostages and terrorism and, blowing up innocent people and all that stuff. So he's a Hamas campus organizer because that's where the next generation comes from, is from campus. And the left knows they need to sink their pointy teeth into the next generation, suck the lifeblood out of them, and replace their normal blood with the venom of the left. So the cancellations, which came amid a pressure campaign from the school's Students for Justice in Palestine chapter. It's they abbreviate that, of course, the Students for Justice in Palestine. It's SJP. And SJP, they should be deported. Any member should be deported, or at least stun guns, tasers to the ground, drag them away by their feet with handcuffs behind their back, and throw them in Gitmo because they might as well be jihadis. They might as well be Al-Qaeda. And they call themselves liberals because the brainwashing that the left has perpetrated upon generations, plural at this point, of Americans are going to lead to a bad century in the United States of America. Sorry, you got a bad century looming here. Amazing stuff. So the Columbia University, the cancellations, the pressure from the school's Students for Justice in Palestine chapter put the professors at odds with Columbia's provost, who emailed faculty colleagues, that's what he called them, Monday morning to issue a reminder that faculty must meet all scheduled classes. I'd fire them, and in consideration of gassing them. What do you think, gas? Maybe let's get the rail cars, bring the rail cars over to Columbia University just to get the ball rolling. These people are really something. That's your Democrat Party. They're not normal. They're unwell. They're terribly, terribly unwell. And this guy that Khalil, that they love so much, Muhammad Khalil, the terrorist loved by Democrats. Khalil is reportedly, you can't say for sure because he's a jihadi, an Algerian citizen. He's a citizen of Algeria, which is not in Israel, not in Egypt, doesn't border Gaza, but he's allegedly maybe an Algerian citizen, but nobody knows, even though he's married to an American woman and he's got a green card to stay in the United States, thanks to Democrats. And he was in the master's program at an Ivy League university called Columbia because nobody loves death like the left. Honestly, the jihadis have nothing on the left, not by a long shot. But reportedly an Algerian citizen of Palestinian descent. He's of Palestinian descent. He's but Algerian, who was born in Syria. Hey, where's the Palestinian part? He's born in Syria, and he's an Algerian citizen, and we should send him back to Syria and tell them that he's a Christian. Then maybe things will not go well for him. He was admitted to the United States on a student visa because, what more do we want from our students than to be members of the global jihad? What do they chant all the time? There is no fada like intifada, well, something like that. They love this whole intifada now because they want war. That's the thing about them. And the Democrats, they do too. They're not on the side of civilization. They've killed so many more people than the jihadis could ever dream of killing. Well, the jihadis dream of killing that many people, but they've come up short so far. So, born in Syria, admitted to the United States on a student visa, obtained a green card. And the media is like, oh, he's got a green card. You can't deport him. He's a jihadi. Hey, Mohammed Atta, one of the 9/11 hijackers, he's got a green card. We can't do anything about him. Isn't that amazing? And he became a U.S. permanent resident, I assume under Joe Biden, because the Democrats love the jihad. He's also reportedly, and again, he's reportedly an Algerian citizen. He's reportedly married to a U.S. citizen. I assume it's a woman, because otherwise he'd have to throw himself off a rooftop. And you don't want to see that. Or maybe you do. Could be fun, I think. Isn't that amazing? And speaking of peace, which the Democrat Party is against, Marco Rubio, our Secretary of State, and our National Security Advisor, Michael Waltz, they're in Saudi Arabia. I've spent several months in Saudi Arabia myself. It's kind of an interesting place. But they're at the table with the Ukrainians. Remember, there's a war going on there. The news media doesn't cover it. When's the last time you saw a frame of warfare in Ukraine on television? Anybody? Raise your hand. Yeah, the news media, they've buried that story like they've buried the hundreds of thousands of dead, but never mind that. But our Secretary of State and National Security Advisor in Saudi Arabia at the table with the Ukrainians, not just shoveling money their way, they're talking peace. Although CNN, I talked about this yesterday, CNN is calling them the war talks. The war talks. Because CNN wants more war. CNN has always gotten better ratings when there's a big war going on. We are at 888-630-9625. You'll never guess what President Trump plans on buying today. We've got that. What about the tunnels under the U.S. border with Mexico being used by the cartels? Who's in favor of those? Which Democrats love those? And how about keeping the government from shutting down? Oh, no, another government shutdown. Well, okay. In the meantime, everybody in the media is fired. Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at washingtontimes.com/Chris. And have you seen the David Hogg? You know, David Hogg is a Democrat hero because he was present at a school shooting in Florida. They love that. So they made him, is he the top guy yet? He'll be the top guy in they're running for president. John Wilkes Hogg over here. We got him coming up. Right now, let's go to the telephones, Michael. Let's go to Bob calling from Chattanooga, Tennessee. Robert, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
I think it's a mistake for you to constantly characterize every issue as it's the Democrats. And this is one that is in particular the issue that I think that's going to unite the far left libs and the upcoming young Christian nationalists is Israel's violent behavior and their chokehold on our representative government and our media. And I think I can prove that probably.
Probably. Well, I've got about an entire minute for you, and we do free speech here, so fire away.
Well, as far as the government, I'd say there's probably, I think there's over 100 congressmen whose top donors are Israel. Trump got over $200 million from Miriam Adelson, which is why he's never going to go against Israel for anything. And as far as the media, the proof is this. You, Chris Plant, say one critical thing about Israel.
Well, I'm pro-Israel. I'm pro-Israel, and I know who the bad guys are, and I recognize that jihad is a global scourge, and that Iran is, the bad guy behind the curtain on all of this. That Israel is Fort Apache on the edge of Indian territory, defending civilization against the opposite of civilization. And again, there's more. I'd like to apologize to Bob. That's that bottom of the hour clock. There is no option but to bail. It's not the Jews in this case, but you never know because media and all that stuff. But we were talking about, he's saying, and it's true. He used interesting language. Christian nationalists who are anti-Israel as well. I don't think I'd score myself as a Christian nationalist. I'm a Christian, and as an American, I'm quite nationalist, but I'm not what I would call a Christian nationalist. I'm very pro-Israel. I've been to Israel. I spent, as I mentioned, several months in Saudi Arabia way back in 1990 when the great Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait, the 19th province, and I went in there. Spent some time with the U.S. military in Saudi Arabia, 3 months there, and an interesting place, and I made friends in Saudi Arabia. I had a perfectly good time in Saudi Arabia. I liked my 3 months there. Spent time in Egypt and in Morocco and in Washington, D.C. and beyond. And I've got nothing against Muslims or Islam as a rule. I do have a problem with radical Islam and the jihad, which is a genocidal death cult, and I'm opposed as a rule. You know, I don't want to be too absolutist. I'm opposed as a rule to genocidal death cults. You know, call me old-fashioned, but there it is. And and I've spent a little time in Israel too, and I'm definitely very pro-Israel. And Israel represents civilization. Hamas represents the opposite of civilization. And my father spent some time dropping bombs and firing machine guns from his one-seat airplane at these people that we called Nazis back then. And, they're the bad guys. And Israel has a problem that is kind of like the problem America had during World War II. Got these bad guys over here who are genocidal murder cult, and you might have to kill them all, because that's the way to peace. And it's not really what you want, perhaps, but it's what you have to do under certain circumstances. And that's the problem that Israel has, is they're surrounded by genocidal, suicidal, lunatic death cultists. Hamas is only one of them. You've got the Palestinian Islamic Jihad also in Gaza and Hezbollah in Lebanon, and you've got them all over the place. You're surrounded by them. It's a tough neighborhood, very medieval, primitive, bloodthirsty, blood-drenched neighborhood of the world. And Bob, you also said some about President Trump, who took hundreds of millions of dollars allegedly from Miriam Adelson, the widow of Sheldon Adelson, who Jewish, and she's Jewish too. She was born in Israel, as a matter of fact. Well, she was born in the protectorate. That was the Palestinian protectorate, the Palestinian Mandate in 1945. Miriam Adelson was. And that's the post, the Holocaust was stopped. World War II ended in 1945. And so the state of Israel was created because they had just about enough of the European hospitality, and it had been ongoing. Go back to the Inquisition. What a show. The Inquisition. Here we go. We're on a mission to convert the Jews. And the Inquisition is here, and it's here to stay. But I've got to say, Bob, that regardless of the money, I would just say that the United States should be on the side of civilized people and not on the side of genocidal death cults. But, again, that's me. And we're all entitled to our opinions, no doubt. No doubt about it. But we got all that going on. So we've got that, and Miriam Adelson aside. Adelson, I think it's Adelson. Now, with that said, we've got some, and I wasn't even planning on going here, but no, we're going to go there now because the timing works for all of this stuff. But the Democrats, they're anti-Israel, and Bob, you're not wrong about what you say, but there's been this peculiar thing called anti-Semitism that has been a problem on planet Earth for some time now, I think it would be fair to say. Again, talking about the Inquisition and singing the Mel Brooks song from History of the World Part 1 and all that. But I've got to say, the Democrat Party, they're quite mad. They're not on the side of civilization because, Bob, they're the left. And I've been saying this for some time because it's true. They're not liberals. They're the left. And the left is the most murderous gang of political lunatics that the world has ever seen. And I'll get to David Hogg in just a moment. But there's Rashida Tlaib. Do you know Rashida Tlaib? She's a Democrat member of the House of Representatives, kind of an amazing example of the that what we can do with our wild and wacky democracy, and the people that the Democrats will send to Washington to be their representatives. Rashida Tlaib, we have these tunnels along our southern border coming into the United States from Mexico. The tunnels are used by the cartels, the Sinaloa cartel, to name just one, and more. And the the American death toll is pretty extraordinary. We've got human smugglers, human traffickers, they're drug traffickers, fentanyl traffickers. They've got all these enterprises going on. Some of them are very enterprising people. Child sex trafficking and human trafficking and drug trafficking. And when you have 100,000 fatal drug overdoses in the United States in a single year, you might want to start paying attention. But call me crazy. And I've got to say, Rashida Tlaib is one of the craziest people ever to serve in Congress. She's effectively a jihadi, and she's anti-American. She's an anti-Semite. She's an anti-white racist as well. Anti-Semitism is a form of racism all by itself. And it has a prickly and pointy reality given the history of anti-Semitism on planet Earth and in the United States, but we're not exactly Germany or Israel or the Middle East when it comes to these matters. Now, Rashida Tlaib, just amazing, yesterday became the only member of the House of Representatives opposing a bill yesterday cracking down on Mexican cartels and their border tunnel system. The bill was sponsored by 7 Republicans and, amazingly, 1 Democrat. Kind of surprising. Democrat and 1, but only 1. They got hundreds of them up there. And 1 Democrat supported the bill to do something about the tunnel system like the one in Gaza coming into the United States. Now, are jihadis being smuggled in through these tunnels into the United States? Are there, obviously there are human traffickers, child sex traffickers, drug traffickers using the tunnel networks. Why do you think they built them? But the House of Representatives passed a bill aimed at cracking down on Mexican cartels and their use of tunnels that they built underneath the southwest border coming into the United States to smuggle illegal immigrants and illicit items into the U.S. That would be drugs, fentanyl, cocaine, and methamphetamine, and the Chinese communists are behind the curtain back there as well. The bill passed with overwhelming bipartisan support. 402 members of the House of Representatives voted in favor of the bill to crack down on this tunnel system coming into the United States. One vote against the bill. That was Rashida Tlaib, the Democrat, radical, extremist, jihadi, genocidal, racist, Rashida Tlaib, Democrat from Michigan. And the Fox News people, they contacted her office for a comment, but they didn't hear back from her because these lefties, they don't call back Newsmax. They don't call back Fox News. They just want to kill. So the bill, which was led by Congressman Eli Crane, a Republican from Arizona, enjoys bipartisan support thanks to its lone Democratic co-sponsor, Congressman Lou Correa, a Democrat from California. Says, hey, wait, we're going to do something about those tunnels coming into California and the United States. But also backed by 6 other House Republicans. And then you got Rashida Tlaib. And Rashida Tlaib, she is absolutely against securing our border and cutting down on human trafficking, child sex trafficking, and drug trafficking into the United States. She is dead set in favor of, like suicide vest ready, to support the drug cartels, the Sinaloa cartel and the other cartels that are here to kill inside of the United States of America, and Rashida Tlaib is with them.
If you believe in constitutional rights, if you understand that they're targeting this person, and everyone knows he has been very vocal against the genocide of the Palestinian people in Gaza, and they're targeting him and refusing him constitutional rights, who's next?
Yes. See, she's very upset indeed, that the Jordanian-born Algerian citizen who claims Palestinian lineage, who is organizing genocidal hate fests at Columbia University, an Ivy League school where he attended school as a post-grad student, probably paid for by us because the Democrats are here to destroy the United States of America. And so Rashida Tlaib, it's like, well, we can't have this Congressman Eli Crane introduced, and he's not in favor of of Mahmoud the terrorist. And he's, what's the guy with the ventriloquist thing? You know, that guy. I'll kill you is, honestly, these people are not on our side at all. Now let's go, because she's truly something. Yeah, Rashida Tlaib, very upset about the, I'm sorry, that she's separately talking about the tunnels, but that's her, she's defending the constitutional rights of jihadis, because suddenly they believe in the Constitution when they're defending jihadis who are here to destroy the world, starting with the United States. Aren't they amazing? Yes, they are. All right, so Mahmoud Khalil, she's very much a supporter of Mahmoud Khalil, and so is David Hogg. Remember David Hogg? David Hogg was a student at the Parkland School Massacre, a horrible event in Florida years ago, and the Democrats quite recently, and then they used him as a teen idol, right? A teen prophet. Has he transitioned to women yet? David Hogg, he was one of their child prophets. They have, their prophet of doom on, Greta von Thunberg. She's the prophet of doom on the climate. And they have these child prophets that they manufacture and they worship, and then they spit them out when they're done with them. But the David Hogg child prophet on the anti-Second Amendment, anti-freedom, anti-gun movement, David Hogg. And David Hogg is the new vice chair of the Democratic National Committee, because the Democrats said, hey, let's take our teen idol. And, they all want to have sex with people that they're politically attracted to, because they're really screwed up people. They genuinely are. So David Hogg, Parkland School shooting student, and he's 24 years old now, 24 years old. And he's the vice chair of the Democratic National Committee. For what reason, you might ask? Well, because they love abusing children. And he's one of the child prophets, along with Greta von Thunberg. Prophets of doom, one of their apocalyptic prophets. All right. So let's go to David Hogg, because he posted a video of himself. Hey, I'm the number 2 at the Democratic National Committee. And he, for some inexplicable reason, is coming out in support of Mahmoud Khalil, because the Democrat Party is with the jihad and against the United States of America. DNC Vice Chair David Hogg.
Today, the Trump administration took one more step on their authoritarian march, detaining Palestinian student and recent graduate of Columbia University, Mahmoud Khalil. This is a blatant violation of the Constitution. This is a blatant violation of our rights. And this is a threat to Americans everywhere. Regardless of whether or not you're a Democrat, Republican, independent, or otherwise, all of us need to be extremely concerned about this.
Yeah. I got an idea, Democrats. Stop shooting people. How about that? That'd be a good idea. This is another step on the march to authoritarianism, when in reality it's Khalil who is authoritarian. See how tortured and twisted this anti-intellectual, violent, anti-American movement is. David Hogg.
Donald Trump is trying to shut down young people and stop us from speaking out, because he, like all other authoritarians, believe that they have to shut down freedom of speech, freedom of expression, so that they can rule like a king. In this country, we don't bow to kings, and we need our young people to stand up to Donald Trump, because he knows that we are one of the biggest threats against him. This is happening, and we can't let it stand.
Yeah, and the children under attack, Mahmoud Khalil is 30 years old. He's one of the children, according to 24-year-old DNC Vice Chair David Hogg, who obviously has some kind of a disorder. Pretty amazing stuff, these guys. David Hogg, Trump is authoritarian, not jihadis that Democrats invite into the United States, send to Ivy League institutions, give them a free ride through America. Hey, marry my daughter. And he did. Mahmoud Khalil came in and married some Democrat's daughter, according to reports. They say he's reportedly married to an American. But that's the DNC Vice Chair, David Hogg, one of the child prophets of doom. And he is a brain-damaged moron. He's pro-jihad, at least. He's pro-genocide. He's an anti-Semite, a virulent genocidal anti-Semite. And, Bob may disagree with me, but Bob's entitled to disagree with me, of course. The Democrat Party is not on our side, and they are increasingly mentally ill.
Silence! I kill you!
Mahmoud Khalil, they should make him, they should have 2 deputy DNC chairs. They should really have a suicide vest-wearing jihadi as at least number 3 at the Democratic National Committee. With David Hogg, he seems to really care, All right, let's take a phone call, Michael. Let's go to Andrew, calling from Harpers Ferry, West Virginia. Beautiful Harpers Ferry. Andrew, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
My wife just got a green card. She's getting ready to go for her citizenship. My stepdaughter has a green card. And I remember when filling out the application and when I hear all the practice questions that my wife will have to answer, there's all these neat questions about, are you a terrorist? Do you support terrorist organizations? Things like that. This guy has a green card. It doesn't give him constitutional rights. It's an invitation to be a part of this country with the hope that you might want to support it and become a good citizen. He's broken all the rules already.
Wow. They actually asked you, so your wife and your stepdaughter, green card holders now, both of them, right?
Yep.
And they had questions that were asked of you, like, do you support any jihadi organizations, terrorist groups, anti-American groups? And you presumably answer them, preferably, you answer them no.
Correct. And, the crazy thing is, to tell you how repetitive the questions get, there'll be questions like, are you a sex worker? Are you a sex worker terrorist? Are you a sex worker terrorist that wants to overthrow the United States? I mean, these are the type of questions that they ask over and over again. This guy has broken the rules. He's called for jihad. He's not calling for the support of the government.
So you think that he probably violated the rules by lying on the forms that he filled out to get a green card as well. I'm with you. That's a great call. I'm really glad that you called in with your personal experiences. That's great stuff, Andrew. Thank you.